Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'm going to start off this lesson by giving all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rahmah Kadash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone rule well, and I've taught them this word in truth and sincerity. All right, and peace and mercy to the whole full elect, starting with the 144,000 that's also pushing this word in truth and sincerity across the whole corners of the earth. I'm your fellow servant Amath of GMS Toronto. We're coming at you once again, all right, with another live lesson. And this is going to be another edition of Doomsday Prophecies, all right, linking world events to Bible prophecy to encourage, or rather strengthen the faith of the whole full elect, okay? And as you see, today's edition of Doomsday Prophecy is, the title is Like a Bulging Wall, like a bulging wall that will burst and fall. Okay, like a bulging wall that will burst and fall. And inspiration of that title comes from Isaiah 30 and 8, right? Which I'm going to open up with that. Got a couple news clips, okay, and then of course I got precepts and stuff that I'll be tying to those news clips. But yeah, like a bulging wall that will burst and fall, and you know that's linked to Jake's false sense of security here under Esau Edom's captivity. All right, there's cracks in his wall. You know, walls are often linked parabolically to a covering, protection. So this false sense of protection or security that our people have under this wicked society, which is ruled by Esau Edom, all right, is getting ready to burst and fall. Okay, right upon their heads. All right, and ultimately, all that is going to link to what? Everything that we always talk about, we constantly bring out like a broken record, the mark of the beast, which is the microchip. Okay, that great hour of testing that will come upon the whole world. Okay, so let's read this here, Isaiah 30 and 8, and we get this in NLT. It says, "Now go and write down these words." Whoa, what's going on here? Slacking. Now go and write down these words. Write them in a book. They will stand until the end of time as a witness. Meaning what? That the prophecies written in this book would be fulfilled and play out at the end of time, as it is written. Okay, so it stands as a witness. These people are stubborn rebels, all right, Israelites, who refuse to pay attention to the Lord's instructions. They tell the seers, right, the prophets, stop seeing visions, to stop prophesying, right? They're annoyed at the prophets prophesying. They tell the prophets, don't tell us what is right. Okay, tell us nice things, tell us lies. And this is why, GMS, all right, Great Millstone is the most hated Israelite camp or group out there, because we don't tell lies. We don't tell you things to make you feel good. All right, the elect will feel good when they hear the truth, because as Yahushua said, my sheep hear my voice. Okay, and with the truth comes the understanding of salvation. So if you hear the truth and you don't like it, that means salvation is not for you. Okay, and this is why Great Millstone, again, all right, it's the most hated Israelite group among all the different Israelite groups out there, because we tell it how it is. We tell the truth, and we always go in prophecy, not sparing any words or emotions. Don't tell us what is right. Tell us nice things. Tell us lies. And this is why all these other different Israelite camps have the immense amount of followers that they do, because the majority of those Israelites are set up to be destroyed. They didn't want to hear the truth. Few of them are of the whole full elect. We believe that in these various other camps, but the majority of Israel are set up to be destroyed on this side before they come back, all right, and enjoy the kingdom of heaven, right, through the elect. Okay, so verse 11, it says, forget all this gloom. Get off your narrow path. Stop telling us about your Holy One of Israel, right? No one, they don't want to hear about Jacob's trouble. They don't want to hear about the downfall and the destruction of Esau Edom society. This is why they're going to go down right along with Esau Edom and this society. Okay. It says, this is the reply of the Holy One of Israel. Because you despise what I tell you and trust in oppression and lies, right? That's everything this system is. It's really oppression, okay, disguised as progression, just like the mark of the beast being the microchip, right? Linked with the New World Order, this digital system, is also going to be disguised as progression, all right? Which is, but really, it's really the ultimate form for Esau Edom as oppression, okay? Because now he'll be able to control your thoughts, okay? Fully, total control, okay? Just like Alex Jones told or Aaron Russo told Alex Jones. Total control is what the top wickedly, right, these international bankers want over the world and people. This is the reply of the Holy One of Israel. Because you despise what I tell you and trust instead in oppression and lies, calamity will come upon you suddenly. That's right, right? Like a bulging wall, like a bulging wall that bursts and falls. In an instant, it will collapse and come crashing down. That's his society, right? Which is a false sense of security. It's an illusion. It's a lie, all right? And it's all coming apart, falling apart. And those cracks in the wall are getting bigger and wider to the point where everything's just going to come crashing down. Okay, verse 14 says, you will be smashed like a piece of pottery, shattered so completely that there won't be a piece big enough to carry coal from a fireplace or a little water from the well. So complete destruction, annihilation, okay, of this wicked society. All right, starting with America, aka Babylon the Great, and 2/3 of our people, all right, that love this place. Verse 15, it says, only says, this is what the sovereign Lord Yahweh says. The Holy One of Israel says, only in returning to me and resting in me, right, will you be saved. All right. So basically, adhering to this wisdom, knowledge, understanding is the only safe and hiding place and covering from the destruction that the Lord is getting ready to bring, and the evils that the Lord is getting ready to bring upon the whole earth. All right, and in particular, America. In quietness and confidence is your strength, right? This wisdom, knowledge, understanding, this truth, but you would have none of it. You see? Okay. You said, no, we will get our help from Egypt, right? They will give us swift horses and for riding into battle, but the only swiftness you're going to see is the swiftness of your enemies chasing you. That's right, man. So it's all going to come crashing down on Israel and the whole world, really. All right. That's living in darkness and wickedness, rejecting this truth. Now, let me get this here from chat real quick concerning what I just read in Isaiah 30. I'm just going to read the end point. Everything else is whatever, but the end point here, it says, bringing it together, Isaiah 30 and 13 isn't just about ancient Israel, it's a blueprint, right? Truth is spoken plainly. People would prefer comfort over correction. Warning is ignored long enough, then collapse comes suddenly, and people are caught off guard, not because they, not because there was no warning, but because they refused it. You see? So when judgment comes, whether you call it the mark of the beast, Jacob's trouble, or the day of the Lord, it feels like it came out of nowhere due to rebellion, right? Refusal to listen, which is willful ignorance. Okay, but it didn't. It crept in like a crack in a wall. That's right. Okay. Again, that wall being your false sense of security. Okay. It says, final thought, the old prophets weren't ignored because they were unclear. Okay. They were ignored because they were inconvenient. If this truth, wisdom, knowledge, understanding of Yahweh Shai is inconvenient to you as an Israelite, Simply put, you're wicked. You're wicked and you're going to be destroyed. How can your heritage and truth, all right, um, be inconvenient to you? But that's because our people love this place. They love this place. The kingdom of heaven and true rulership that's been promised to us, all right, is inconvenient to two-thirds of our people. Ain't that something? And that's the thread tying Isaiah 30 and 13 to the end. Okay. A generation that won't hear truth in peace. Okay. Because we're in this grace period right now, even though all evil, all hell's breaking loose and is going to break loose, and evils are multiplying and intensifying. All right. We're in a grace period. A generation, as it says, a generation that won't hear truth in peace will be forced to understand it in collapse. Okay? A generation that won't hear truth and peace, or rather grace, will be forced to understand it in collapse. And that's when it will be too late. Okay. So my first clip here, this is from Jason A. He entitled it This Just Happened. It Has Begun. Okay. So fair use, fair
You're getting that?
fair use, fair use, fair use. I'm not receiving any monetization. Okay, for this video, I'm only sharing this video for educational purposes only. All right. So fair use, fair use, fair use.
Now they're
Let me make sure the volume is good.
so we're into 6G now. I just 5G. I was a leader on 5G getting that. And now they're up to 6. What does that do? Give you a little bit deeper view into somebody's skin? See how far we get it.
Imagine this though. They just give their presentations to the overlords. They could just be they might look like normal humans. These people in charge, James. It's possible that they have horns, but I don't know.
Which that's just that false narrative of reptilian and whatever and all that nonsense. It's just it's just the top wicked elite, right? International bankers, which their biblical nationality, which is their true nationality, goes back to Esau, Edom. They're Edomites. Okay. They don't got horns on their heads. But the characteristics, okay, of a serpent, they follow. Okay.
They could look like humans and not be humans. I don't know who they are. They could just have lots of money. The reason I went down that little flight of fancy is what has happened, it seems to me, over the last few years is so unbelievably well coordinated that it feels like they've been using either a good AI, which may have existed a long time before we learned anything about it, or something supernatural. Because how the hell have they coordinated everything so well? And as far as I can tell, almost no faults. And I think sometimes where there has been a fault, it almost looks like they did that on purpose to see whether to then research how many people detected it.
Well, we believe.
Yeah. Well, everything's so well coordinated because, first of all, this is the Lord's will. Let's get Job 9:24 real quick. See, these top wicked elite international bankers have been given the earth. Okay. The Lord has given them the earth to fulfill prophecy, right? To get them to their height so he can magnify his name. Okay. Through their downfall and destruction. Okay. And the uprising of Israel, starting with the elect by the return of our Lord Yahweh. Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof, right? He propped up himself as the Most High, all right, being translucent, and Yahushua being translucent, all the Israelites being translucent, okay? When they're men of color, meddling, okay? He covers the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? And the NLT says, the whole earth is in the hands of the wicked. And Yahweh Yahweh Shemashah blinds the eyes of the judges. Yeah. And he has done that, right? These wicked elites, the scriptures say the pride of his heart has deceived them. So they're truly blinded by the pride of their heart. They really believe that they're going to succeed even after the destruction of America by the way of thermonuclear missiles. Seeing how Shai crack the clouds, beam up the elect, and then the elect come back down, they still think they're going to be able to put up a fight to win. So That is, you can't outdo that kind of pride. Okay, if he's not the one, who does it? Who is? Okay, so that coordination also goes back to the fact that all the rulers of the earth have joined hand in hand with the top wicked elite to fulfill, all right, this new world order, all right, by the way of the mark of the beast, which is the microchip. This is Revelation 17 and 17. Okay, and you also said they do this divinely. Yeah, well, they work hand in hand with Satan and all his minions on the left hand side through conjuring up these demons, right, by the way of their left hand side priesthood, the prognosticators and shamans that they use to you know communicate with Satan. They get all their ideas from Satan because they've been blessed by Satan to establish an enterprise, which Satan's getting his orders from the Most High. We know this. Revelation 17 and 17, right? But they won't fully be able to establish their enterprise. It says, Revelation 17 and 17, for Yahweh, Bashim El Shai, has put in their hearts, all right, to fulfill his will, okay, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of Yahweh Bashim Yashai shall be fulfilled. This is why everything has been so well coordinated throughout the four corners of the earth. Now, we're at the end of this man's rulership, so things are falling apart. As Yahweh Shai told us about, there'll be division among Satan, okay? And if there's division among Satan, how can his kingdom stand? All right, so they're not in all unisons, okay, because everything's about to come crashing down. Now, I have this from chat real quick, just tying in Revelation 17, because when you read this, this is not just one event, right? This is multiple events in many ways that they've done this, that they've um, agreed to give their kingdoms over to the beast, okay? In many different ways, financially, educationally, okay, so on and so forth. So, okay. So let's see where I'm going to get this, where I'm going to start from, because most of it is nonsense. Okay. And chat, when it comes to chat, you have to tie it to conspiracy lore to get the correct answer. That's how you know this thing is beyond infiltrated. But it says number one, to agree, global economic unity. After Bretton Woods agreement, nations tied their currency to the US dollar, effectively orbiting one financial sun. Okay, this becomes the moment the kings of the earth begin to move in financial agreement, surrendering monetary sovereignty. Okay, and they seen the results, the consequences of that, and they don't like it. This is why ultimately America, being Babylon the Great, is going to be pelted by ICBM missiles, man, by these allies, these other nations that have been in one agreement with America. Okay, because really, when you boil it down, all the nations, the rulers of all these nations, they're all in one agreement with the New World Order and this digital system. What they're not in agreement with is America being at the head of it, like it was at the old system, the old financial system. Okay, they're sick and tired of this whore. And Trump, DJ Trump, is the best man to isolate America from the earth, from the world, alongside with those long noses. Okay, so number one, they've agreed by what? Global economic unity. Number two, okay, it says to give their kingdom political cooperation. Okay, the formation of the United Nations brought nations under one diplomatic roof. All right, it says nations yielding partial authority to a global body, right? Where really America is at the head of this global body. Hence why you saw that whore in Revelation 17 riding upon the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, NATO and the EU. Okay, so nations yielding partial authority to a global body, handing over power in line with Revelation 17. Okay, number 3. It says elite steering behind the scenes influence. Groups like the Council of Foreign Relations, CFR, are often pulled into this narrative, right? It says a quiet priesthood of policymakers guiding global direction equals the invisible hand behind the beast. All right. Number 4, it says one system, digital and AI infrastructure. All right. It says here, um, global AI networks, digital IDs, centralized data equal the infrastructure for total control, echoing later imagery like the mark system in Revelation. Okay, the mark of the beast system in Revelation. Okay, so ultimately, this is what they're going to be unifying themselves together to do, right? Bring about that new world order. By the way, the microchip. Let's see if there's any more here. Global systems are messy, corroborative information. So it says here the poetic idea is seductive. Many nations, one system, one authority, prophecy fulfilled. Global systems are messy, competitive. You see, they're competitive. Like you have the race for AI, right? The AI race, the 6G race, right? And fractured. It says power is distributed, not surrendered overnight. But it will be surrendered overnight, okay, by a black swan event. Okay. Cat's going off here, obviously. Let me just see if there's any more. Okay, so it says you can map, the bottom line, you can map Bretton Woods equals economic unity, UN political cooperation, CFR elite influence, AI systems technological control. On to Revelation 17, if you treat the text like a symbolic mirror, okay? But obviously, chat says, but that map is interpretive. Anyhow, let's continue with this clip.
Whether to then research how many people detected it.
Well, we believe having the ability to save and transact is something that should be universal, and a lot of forums have adopted that goal. We won't be able to do that with traditional systems. That is, the cost of bank branches and paperwork, it's just too high. But fortunately,
he said a lot of nations have adopted that goal, echoing what I just read in Revelation 17 and 17, also Psalms 83.
With countries like bank branches and paperwork, it's just too high. But fortunately, starting with countries like Kenya, and more recently with a robust system in places like India, we see that you can have digital financial inclusion. India is a great example. They did a lot of their own technology, which won't be possible for other countries. And so the role of the Gates Foundation as an advocate for those who don't have access today is to make sure there's technology and standards, including open source work that we're providing through the financial switch, which is called Mojaloop, and through the digital identity system, which is extremely valuable, not just for financial activities, but for health and voting and education, and that's called MOSIP.
There isn't going to be a one-size-fits-all solution. What is the role that you see the private sector playing in being able to collaborate with different governments to ensure that we move forward?
Well, once you have the digital money system, then there's all sorts of services and applications that can be built on top of that, whether it's helping with health or education or agriculture, giving people visibility into their financial status, giving them advice, should they take a loan, should they buy insurance, what makes sense. The phone becomes a connection for low cost interaction with those customers that doesn't require human activity that would be beyond the means of the people we're trying to get to who don't yet have these accounts. So the digital revolution, which of course was where I worked before moving full-time to the foundation, here we're trying to make sure that the developing countries have the benefit of the digital revolution, in some cases before it gets to even some of the rich countries who have legacy systems that people are so used to that the speed that they'll
i.e. America. All right, so the elites are saving the best for last, okay, which is America and all these so-called New World Order, or not New World Order, first world countries, but America, okay?
Pushing out of them, won't be as fast as, say, China or India that didn't have that history. And so it's really learning what worked in China and India, and now making it easy for even smaller countries to do this, working with a lot of partners, including the World Bank, African Development Bank, many of them. So private sector will help these central banks create these systems, but moreover, the phone companies, the banks, and the entrepreneurs will build applications that use these financial capabilities.
Does it help?
Yeah, so you're going to be snuffed out if you don't want to partake in the system. Remember, and notice how he mentioned China. Klaus Schwab many a times has said China, all right, is the framework of where they want to take the world. Okay, so, and then he also said that all these different platforms, phone companies, internet companies, and so on and so forth, will be creating the technology. All right, so let's say I'm not taking the chip, whatever, but basically they're going to get all these companies to push it out. Okay, you're no longer going to have, no longer you're going to be able to have your phone bill without being a part of the digital grid by the way of the microchip. You won't be able to work without the microchip. You won't be able to do anything within an economy and a society without the microchip. Okay, so let's get this real quick. This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, or chapter 2, verse 9. This man in the NLT will come to do the work of Satan with counterfeit power and signs and miracles. Okay, so miracles going into things to make people wonder at. Okay, and that's what his pseudoscience, right, and his technology has done. It's made the world wonder at him. Okay, and America being the patsy, all right, for the international bankers. Okay, he will use every kind of evil deception to fool those on their way to destruction. Okay, because they refuse to love and accept the truth that would save them. You see that? So those that are fooled and bewitched by this man's pseudoscience, like Ali Eshwamba likes to coin all the time, the pseudoscience, and his counterfeit power by signs and miracles, they were already predestined and picked by Yahweh Shemashah to be destroyed, man. This is why it says, again, he will use every kind of evil deception to fool those that are on their way to destruction because they refuse to love and accept the truth that would save them. So Yahweh Bashim Shah will cause them to be greatly deceived, and they will believe these lies. You see, the lies of what? Because when you listen to this guy, Kill Gates, he's coming in the tone of this is going to be better for the country, better for people, and this is going to be progression. This is the guys, all right, that these elites are coming in, right? They're coming in the guise of progression. This is the next step, when really it's the ultimate form of oppression. Okay, verse 12 it says, "Then they will be condemned." Okay, for enjoying evil rather than believing the truth. So the Most High, all right, has 2/3 of our people in a great delusion that they will be deceived. Why? Because they reject openly, all right, his words, which are spoken by the prophets, and for taking, all right, the microchip and enjoying evil, right? Because you'll be able to do certain things for a bit, but like Apostle Har always says, man, once that microchip, all right, is made mandatory throughout the four corners of the earth, you can expect the missiles and the destruction of America, aka Babylon the Great, within the next couple months, maybe even weeks, really. Okay. Let me get, of course, must get this. Okay. Revelation 13 and 15. As it reads, Revelation 13 and 15, and he had power, right? Esau Edom, all right, through his patsy America, aka Babylon the Great. He had power to give life unto the image of the beast, right? That the image of the beast should both speak, okay, by the way, what? By the way of his media, okay, and by the way of his policies, unrighteous decrees, okay, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. You see? And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Charagma is the word in the Greek for that, for the word mark. Okay, look it up. And that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom, which is, it's going to tell us anyways. Here's wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and the number is 600, 666, 666. Okay. So let's continue. Oh no, that's smart dust. We'll get that one later. Let's continue here.
With the strength of their cell phones and technically, what is the benefit for everyday users out there?
I mean, if you just imagine the not sort of like gigabytes, but terabytes of data moving super fast and at a lot of data at one time, a super big bandwidth of data. So what 6G would let us do is have super fast connections no matter where we go. You wouldn't think about, oh, do I have Wi-Fi at home and do I have wireless in my car when I'm driving around or if I'm traveling? These things would just become all one, and we wouldn't think about not being connected. We'll look back at that. At that point, we'll look back and we'll say, wow, 5G, that was so yesterday. We used to have routers at home and we used to have to, we'd have to pick.
The future is now, Kurt.
Again, it's disguised as progression. When this is the biggest and ultimate form of oppression.
Go to a certain area to go faster. It is.
Yeah.
It actually is now.
And idolatry, Salake. This is also the biggest form, the microchip, all right, the MOTB, which is the microchip, is the biggest form of oppression, but also idolatry. Okay? Idolatry, man. Okay, now you are no longer created in the image of the Most High, as he created the man, starting with the Israelite man, but now you are created in the image of Esau Edom, the basis of all things created,
As the president, we're looking at 6G, by the way. I mean, this may advance it, but 2030 is really the target date for that. Okay. But by what the president did, it might happen a lot faster.
And here I am. I just want outlets on all airplanes, and we're talking about 6G. It's blowing my mind.
Quick question. This is really the one I need you to answer. Will Carly's BlackBerry, which he basically had up until like last year, work on 6G?
We'll have to bring nothing wrong with the BlackBerry. There are people who dream about getting a BlackBerry.
About 6G earlier, which is around 2030. I would say that by then, definitely the smartphone as we know it today will not anymore be the usual, kind of the most common interface. Wow. Many of these things will be built directly into our bodies.
So we're just, I was a leader on 5G getting that done. And now they're up to 6. What does that do? Give you a little bit deeper view into somebody's skin? So I like the cameras.
Like, and then you have these camps that, cannot tie the mark of the beast to the microchip, but you have Esau Edom. All he can ever talk about when it comes to 6G, digital IDs, programmable money, right? AI, data centers. He's always linking all of it to what? Being under your skin, being within your body. This is how you know that these different Israelite camps that are not prophesying the truth of the MOTB, which the truth is that it's a microchip, are paid and bought for. Okay, most likely, most definitely. We believe they sold out.
The old days, so it just had a nice feature. Now they cover every little. Let's see, Michael, you're in good shape. But I tell you, it's the 6 is coming, huh?
Well, this morning.
All right, so that's that on this clip. Okay, let's go. We'll come back to this. Let's go here. Now, this is from Greg Reese, the Greg Reese report. Smart dust and human chattel. Okay, smart dust and human chattel. So fair use. And I'm not receiving any monetization for this video whatsoever. I'm only sharing this video for educational purposes only. Fair use.
The Smart Dust project was funded by DARPA for military applications, specifically for rapid deployment of defense sensor networks onto the battlefield. Battlefield sensing is inherently about detecting people who don't know that they're being detected. The invisibility and undetectability are deliberate design priorities. This technology appeared in the public with U.S. patent 1135.
And look at that. Going back to that number, here is wisdom, right? So you have to go search up, go into that number, go into, the Hebrew and find out that number. But 666, right? It's always tied to a man. Which man? Edomite man, right? Starting at the top with elite. When you look at, obviously, you can tie this to the UPC code as well, right? And the different numbering of the barcodes that you see here. But look at this patent. Patent number US 113546666. Okay, and there's another patent that Bill Gates has going into 0060066600. That's also 666. I'll bring that up later.
54666B1, Smart Dust Usage, which was filed on May 26, 2016, and granted on June 7, 2022. It is assigned to Wells Fargo Bank and describes a system for authenticating a user making a payment using Smart Dust. Smart Dust is technically known as MEMS, Microelectromechanical Systems, and is comprised of what are called motes. A mote is a single, self-contained microsensor node. Each mote measures 1 cubic millimeter or less and is roughly the size of a grain of sand. These motes are released as clouds with thousands of sensor nodes simultaneously sampling the target from multiple angles and positions. The biometric data being collected includes location, facial and body recognition, heart rate, blood pressure, body temperature, breath rate, voice recognition, and fingerprint scanning. The system is designed to create a unique cryptographic signature for every individual based on biological and behavioral data, and is designed to operate without being noticed. The patent describes the motes as a cloud around the user, but UC Berkeley researchers have successfully implanted smart dust sensors into rats in order to monitor and control nerve and muscle activity. This technology requires no batteries and relies on ultrasound to draw power. Scientists claim that for humans, internal smart dust devices could monitor vital signs and could enable control over prosthetics and robotic limbs. In March 2022, the University of Washington's Dandelion breakthrough, partially funded by the U.S. Air Force, deployed tiny battery-free wireless sensors by wind, inspired by dandelion seeds. The senior author stated that our prototype suggests that you could use a drone to release thousands of these devices in a single drop. In 2024, a large blanket of fog affected the United Kingdom, the USA, and Canada. Over 20,000 travelers in the UK and 3.8 million drivers in the USA were impacted. People described it as a thick blanket of fog with a particle-like appearance, which had an odd chemical, electrical, or burning smell to it. And many people claimed to experience fever, coughing, sore throat, headache, and fatigue after exposure. The fog hit during the Christmas and New Year travel period, when millions were moving around for the holidays. A second patent, US 11748-578B1, predictive text system, was filed in November 2021 and granted on September 2023 to Wells Fargo Bank. This patent describes a system that uses neural.
And you notice that these patents, the applicants of these patents are banks. Okay? It's all going back to the bankers, man, international bankers.
Networks and machine learning to analyze and predict your financial thoughts and intentions in real time as you type. Combined with the biometric data from Smart Dust, this creates a system that can monitor both what you're physically doing and what you're thinking about financially. A predictive behavioral surveillance system designed to be always on and continuously learning. This is the exact infrastructure needed for implementing a social credit system. The Smart Dust market was valued at $153.9 million in 2024 and is estimated to grow at a compound annual growth rate of over 14.3% from 2025 to 2034. Industrial use has increased significantly in 2023 and 2024, with integration of artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms now allowing Smart Dust devices to analyze data locally and make autonomous decisions. This technology is currently moving from laboratories to public deployment, which has naturally caused concern in the 1950s and.
Yep. So this devil has to be stopped, man. He has to be stopped. This is Psalm 64, and let's go Psalm 54 and 5, right? It says here in the King James, they encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privately and say, who shall see them? Right? But we've seen them, right? The Lord has woken us up. All right. Starting with the apostles. We're going back to Abba Bivens, really, on down. All right, to the apostles, their elders, on down to us. Okay, and then everything blowing up in 2007 on the YouTube. So we see them, and this is why the prophets, all right, that have the 100% truth are the real threat to these top wicked elites. NLT, actually, I'll go back to NLT after. It says, verse 6, they search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search, both the inward thought of every one of them, okay? And the heart is deep, okay? It says, but Yahweh, Bashim Yashai, shall shoot them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded. So that goes into that destruction of America after, right, the mandatory implementation of the mark of the beast, which is a microchip throughout the four corners of the earth. They think they're going to be able to fully establish a new world order and get away with it. But the Lord, as it says, he shall shoot them down with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded. Okay. So let's get this in NLT. So that's destruction. NLT says Psalm 64 and 5. They encourage each other to do evil and plan how to set their traps in secret. Who will ever notice, they ask. All right. And which is a fair question because the whole world is duped and it's in gross darkness. The only reason why people are waking up now is because the prophets, the Lord woke up the prophets. Okay. As they plot their crimes, they say, we have devised the perfect plan. Yes, the human heart and mind are cunning, but Yahweh Bashim Yashai himself will shoot them with his arrow, suddenly striking them down. Okay. Let's go from here. And let's get Job. Job 5. And get right to the point. Job 5 and 12. It says, he disappointeth the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. You see? He taketh the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the forward is carried headlong. Right? NLT, it says he frustrates the plans of the schemers. Right? And guess what? Just like the scripture also say that they are wearied in the multitude of their counsels, which means, their communication with Satan and all those spirits on the left-hand side, all right, is dimming. It's not as easily accessible as it used to be because time is running out. Matter of fact, they're living on borrowed time. Okay, they're done. The system is done. This is why the scriptures say they're going to come down having great wrath. Why? Knowing that they have a little time. Okay, so he frustrates the plans of the schemers so that the work of their hands will not succeed. Okay, people are gonna, burst out with putrefying sores and boils because of this technology. So it's not gonna work. It's really a dumb idea, a stupid plan. But what else can you expect from the basest thing created? Okay, he traps the wise in their own cleverness, so their cunning schemes are thwarted. That's right. Hey, NLT says they find it is dark in the daytime, and they grope at noon as if it were night. Yeah, that's right. This is again another way of saying that he's wearied in the multitude of his counsels. Okay, they don't got it, and they're losing sleep. Okay, just because of the fact that the prophets are out here on the highways and byways day in and day out, constantly cursing him out, bringing out this truth. Because see, the thing is, like Rockefeller said in the beginning of America's, not in the beginning of America's creation, but really in the early 1800s, he had thanked all the news reporters and media outlets for keeping things private because they wouldn't be able to uh, 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 go forward with their plan without without secrets, without keeping it secret. Slack it, okay? Without keeping it secret. Now everything's out. Now the cat's out the bag. Everybody's talking about this devil and his new world order, exposing him, who he is, and what he's really about. So now all there's left is for him to come down having great wrath. Okay, so they find it as dark in the daytime. This is also the world and 2/3 of our people. Daytime represents the truth. right? And the prophets are speaking the truth. But our people find it dark, which means the truth is not for them. They're in confusion. And they grope at noon, which is the highest point of the sun. Okay, so this is when the truth is coming out the most, as if it were night. Okay. Yeah, that's the point there. Let's go from here. Let's get Proverbs 21. Let's go 27. Proverbs 21 and 27. I'm also going to get this in NLT. It says, the sacrifice of an evil person is detestable, especially when it is offered with the wrong motives. Okay. And ultimately, when you look at what these elves are building and preparing by this New World Order, by the way of the MOTB, which is the microchip, is likened to a sacrifice. Okay. And just like Cain's sacrifice was rejected, so will this sacrifice be rejected. This is why it's not going to work ultimately at the end of the day. Right? Verse 28. It says, a false witness will be cut off, but a credible witness will be allowed to speak. And that's why you have the prophets. This is why you have free speech. It was created for the prophets. YouTube was created for the prophets. Okay. Um, the wicked bluff. The wicked bluff their way through, but the virtuous think before they act. So that means they're prudent. And the point here I wanted to get out is the wicked bluff their way through. Okay. So he's lying. He's lying his way all the way through. Okay. And he's going to be able to deceive those that are already granted to be deceived by him, by the Most High. Well, Yahweh Shai, ultimately that don't have the mark of exemption, the Thawa. Okay, verse 30 says, no human wisdom. Okay, no human wisdom or understanding or plan can stand against the Lord, Yahweh. The horse is prepared, all right, for the day of battle. So they're preparing themselves. They have the infrastructure, they have all their weapons and whatnot. But the victory belongs to the Lord, Yahweh. You see? Well, Shimi al-Shai. So it's not going to work, man. It's not going to work. No matter how sophisticated it sounds, it's not going to work. All right, so this is my last clip here. This is from Redacted, okay? And it says, a microchip in your hand, okay? Sweden's digital ID microchip experiment 10 years later. All right, so fair use, fair use. I'm not receiving any monetization for this video whatsoever. I'm only sharing this video for educational purposes only. Fair use, fair use, fair use.
Sweden's bizarre microchip implanting story and their plan, which would have everyday citizens opting to have microchips implanted right into their bodies, right into their hands, the RFID or near field communications chips, or NFC, basically the size of a grain of rice. And thousands of Swedes took the plunge. And since this story first published, many more thousands have taken the plunge. The idea is that the chips would speed up your users' daily life, make their lives more convenient, access their homes, office, gyms, just swipe it right on your door or keypad and you're right in there. Here is one of the individuals lining up to get one of the chip implants and just being able to get it poked right in the hands. Now, when the
But the mark of the beast, right? The mark of the beast is in the microchip.
Started, the demand was off the charts. There were waiting lists. Companies could insert these things. They couldn't insert these things fast enough. And then shortly after it won high praise from the World Economic Forum.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to track people and they let you.
Exactly.
That's on them.
So World Economic Forum's like, hey, this is great. And if you read the article, the World Economic Forum piece on this, they even point out that's no big deal. It's just like a simple, like a slight sting in when you get it. No big deal.
Imagine telling our youngest who hates shots,
yeah,
that you're just going to get this chip forever. It's only going to hurt for a little bit.
And we'll be able to track everything that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Flash forward to 2026, and now these and where are things at with this program? We wanted to check in on this program, see how it's being floated for digital IDs, digital currency, how it's
This was 10 years ago. 10 years ago. But the microchip, the MOTB is in the microchip, according to these other Israelite camps.
Competing with the incredibly popular bank ID system in Sweden. It's very, very popular. It's almost at 100% usage. The bank ID system in Sweden, 100%, up to 8.6.
100% usage. Slack.
7 million users now. across the country. It's basically their dominant digital ID system. So is there a marriage between like implanting yourself with these chips and using the country's digital ID system? Forget cash, forget everything. It's all digital now, and all they want to do is track you. Well, today we're thrilled to have Maria Z joining us today to talk all about this from Z Media, and who's been watching, of course. She has very keen insights into watching how all of this tracking across these countries around Europe, through Australia, the United States, are unfolding, and watching this legislation that's been moving. Great to see you, Maria. Welcome back to the show.
Great.
And don't forget, Mexico already said that they're going to be moving along with starting 2027 with, according to everything dealing with transportation, digital payment systems. No more cash.
You both, again, thank you so much for inviting me. These particular chips, I will say from the outset, I'm not that worried about the microchips, and I'll explain why. The uptake, yes, there were a few thousand people that rushed to do it in the beginning, but I think that pretty much after 2018, that slowed down a lot. There was the initial rush of, a few thousand that said, yeah, this is great, and we're probably paid to do it. But it's not something that's widely popular at this stage. What I'm more concerned.
This bitch is dumb. Okay, forget what she's saying. I'm not worried about it, but she did make a good point about some of them were probably paid to take it. All right, so that goes into these false leaders. They're definitely be paid off to take the chip as well, deceiving many. Now, what I wanted to get real quick, because you hear this narrative of, oh, don't worry about it. It's not going to be, it's Agenda 2030. It won't happen right away, and blah, 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 blah. Nonsense. What people forget is the same idea was applied to the serpent piss. If you know what I'm talking about, you see it right here. COVID-19-19VACCINES. Okay. Usually it takes about 10 years to create one of these things, but under, all right, a global crisis, everything was expedited. Okay. So all they need is a black swan event to have things done right away. Okay. So this is, I typed what was the legal term that allowed the making of you know what to be expedited in 2020. It says the primary legal mechanism that allowed the emergency authorization and expedited distribution of the C19, VACCINES in the United States in 2020 was emergency use authorization, EUA. So if they have this for the serpent piss, what makes you think they don't have that for anything for the MOTB, the microchip? Okay. Authorized under section 564 of the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. The EUA permitted the FDA to authorize unapproved medical products, you see, or unapproved uses of approved products, okay, to be used in a declared emergency to diagnose, treat, or prevent serious or life-threatening diseases. And so this man is running out of time. So he's definitely going to expedite his use of basically making the microchip mandatory. All right. So let's get this. This is 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 1. Okay. And it reads in the King James, but of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. Let me get this in the NLT actually. It says, verse 1, now concerning how and when all this will happen, dear brothers and sisters, we don't really need to write on to you. Yeah, we're watching. Okay. You like to have the Holy Spirit, so we're watching. For you know quite well that the day of the Lord's return will come unexpectedly like a thief in the night. That's right. Okay. And also this MOTB. Okay, the a mandatory implantation of it. When people are saying everything is peace and secure, then disaster will fall upon them as suddenly as a pregnant woman's labor pains begins, and there will be no escape. But you aren't in dark. You are in the dark about these things, dear brothers and sisters, and you won't be surprised when the day of the Lord comes like a thief. That's right. Okay, the elect are going to be in the spirit. For you are all children of the light wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and not and of the day. We, which is a kingdom, also that represents a kingdom. Okay, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and children of the kingdom, which is the Israelite of the Most High. You have the Israelites, and you have the Israelites of the Most High. We don't belong to darkness and night, wickedness and confusion. So be on your guard, not asleep like others, like the others. Stay alert and be clear-headed. Okay. The night is a time when when people sleep and drinkers get drunk. So you know that when you look at the majority of Israel, starting with these wicked leaders of Israel, they're drunk out of their mind in the spirit. Okay. And they're also asleep. Okay. Willfully. Because it's not like they don't know. But let us who live in the light be clear-headed, right? Protected by the armor of faith and love, which is tied to obedience, and wearing our helmet of confidence of our salvation, keeping our eyes on the prize, man. Okay? There should be no doubt. You don't want to doubt that you're of the elect. You want to believe you're of the elect through and through. And King James, verse 8 says, but let us who are of the day be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for a helmet, the hope of salvation. Okay? The hope of salvation. All right, beautiful. So let's continue here in this clip.
Concerned about, truthfully, is an admission from MIT that happened in November of 2025. So a publication from MIT News actually read, quote, new therapeutic brain implants could defy the need for surgery. Now, I'll read you a couple of quotes from this article. It is extremely alarming. MIT researchers developed microscopic wireless bioelectronics that could travel through the body's circulatory system and autonomously self-implant in a target region of the brain where they could provide, quote unquote, focused treatment, because it's about treating Alzheimer's and things of this nature, right? Not covert operations, everyone. In a study on mice, the researchers show that after injection, these minuscule implants can identify and travel to a specific brain region without the need for human guidance. Once there, they can be wirelessly powered to provide electrical stimulation to the precise area. So a couple of things here. We're talking about self-assembling nanotechnology that can form brain implants that is, one, done through injection, so vaccines, and two, does not need any human intervention once it's been administered through the quote-unquote vaccine. Now, we know, Clayton, that this is happening through geoengineering. Smart dust has been happening for a very, very long time. And we know that they can administer various types of nanotechnology that can be self-replicating, self-programming through vaccines and other medicines, and also potentially through our food. I'm actually far more concerned about the covert applications of this type of technology than I am about people going and implanting themselves. I dare say there could be quite a few people walking around with chips already inside of them without knowing it's actually there.
Wait, what is smart dust that you mentioned?
Smart dust, they've been geoengineering for a very, very long time, as you both know. Smart dust is essentially programmable dust. This is something that is not detected through the human eye. People talk about how it forms structures even on their walls. I mean, there's a lot of anecdotal information about what smart dust has achieved. But basically, when you're talking about the various chemicals that they're spraying, and that also, by the way, includes graphene, Dane Wigington has done independent testing of soil and air and things of this nature and found graphene immediately present.
That was in the serpent piss. Okay? That graphene. Okay.
After geoengineering has occurred, when you look at what they refer to when it comes to graphene, they say that it's essentially a miracle component that they have started using in medicine. And you'd recall Albert Bourla talking about how, in the future,
a miracle component, right? In Thessalonians, I read signs, wonders, and counterfeit miracles and powers.
we're going to have these pills that people can take, and they'll tell us whether the person's taken it, what it's doing inside of their bodies. That, of course, is achieved through graphene because it is highly conductive.
Look at that thing. That thing is moving on its own. That's a life of its own. That's a spirit. And that's
talking about how, in the future, we're going to have these pills that people can take, and they'll tell us whether the person's taken it, what it's doing inside of their bodies. That, of course, is achieved through graphene because it is highly conductive. It is able to send a message back to them. And it's no secret. This isn't a conspiracy theory. Albert Bourla himself has spoken about their ability to do this. There's been a lot of talk back and forward as to whether they can achieve this through geoengineering or vaccines or things of this nature. Their literature absolutely says that it can, and these studies go back decades.
Yeah, here's just an example of some of the graphene oxide being manipulated using different frequencies. So this is exactly what individuals like Dane Wigington have been talking about, David Icke, the manipulation of graphene oxide
and frequencies, right? Look up Lucifer rays, okay? And the 6G, it's all connected, man. This thing responds according to frequencies.
Our bodies, these nanoparticles that can be manipulated and moved. So I think you're right. I think you're hitting on something, because when you look at just the thousands of people that have willingly put these microchips in their hands, that's a small percentage. But so many people have this in their bodies because of, geoengineering, because of what they're spraying in our skies, and because of these COVID jabs.
Yes, let me give you some really shocking information. You may know about this.
Before they continue, she said it's not a conspiracy theory. Okay, it's a conspiracy, right? Which needs to breathe together, right? Inspire, con mean with, spire means to breathe, but it's not a theory. This is Isaiah 8 and 9 in the NLT. Okay, Slake. Isaiah 8 and 9, it says, huddle together, you nations, and be terrified. Listen, all you distant lands, prepare for battle, but you will be crushed. Yes, prepare for battle, but you will be crushed. Right, because they're preparing for battle against Yahushua. All your councils of war, but call your councils of war, but they will be worthless. Develop your strategies, but they will not succeed. For Yahweh Bashim Yashai is with us. That's right. You're not going to get the elect. The Lord has given me a strong warning not to think like everyone else does. He said, don't call everything a conspiracy. Okay? As in the sense that it's a conspiracy theory, like they do. And don't live in dread of what frightens them. Make the Lord Yahweh of heaven's armies holy in your life. He is the one you should fear. He is the one who should make you tremble. That's right. He will keep you safe, but to Israel and Judah, he will be a stoner that makes people stumble. Okay, 2/3 of Israel, a rock that makes them fall. Okay, stone, a rock, great millstone, you put it together. And for the people of Jerusalem, he will be a trap and a snare because they don't want to listen to his message. All right, so he's going to give them a strong delusion to believe lies so that they can be destroyed. That's the power we're dealing with. Many will stumble and fall, never to rise again. Esau, Edom, the heathens, and America, aka Babylon the Great. Okay, 2/3 will come back in the kingdom of heaven. They will be snared and captured. Okay. Verse 16, it says, preserve the teachings of Yahweh Bashim Yashai and trust his instruction to those who follow me. Right. That's the elect. Let's continue a little bit more here.
A lot of people don't actually. So I spoke to Nick Holscher a little while ago, prominent epidemiologist, after I learned about what MIT had admitted here, and asked him whether it was possible that they already covertly did this through the COVID injections. He said, definitely possible. There is some evidence to suggest that they did. But there is another very, very important puzzle piece here, and it comes to us from Bar Ilan University, that's BARILAN University in Israel. And their chief scientist, Ido Bachelet, was actually presenting a TED talk all the way back in 2013. And he basically said at that time, we can implant, he said that we can implant hundreds of billions or 1,000 billion, I think he said, nanorobots into a vaccine. He proudly held up a vaccine during that TED talk. I've done a whole expose on this. He then said in his presentation that people can, they can ensure that they don't, quote unquote, lose control of the nanorobots after they've been injected into people. He stated that the controller is connected to the internet, and I quote, like an Xbox. He then said that the controller actually links these nanobots to the network, that they have an IP address, and that they can be accessed remotely. He bragged about how they can control these nanobots, like with a joystick, to release payloads into humans. This TED talk happened in 2013. Now, here's the kicker. In 2015, Pfizer announced their partnership with Ido Bachelet of Bar Ilan University, who already had this tech. So my point is that while I, of course, am concerned about people willingly implanting themselves, and I do believe free will plays a part in the control of the technocrats, I am very concerned about what covert operations and covert applications have on, I'm concerned about those impacts on the population. And you only need to look at something like Bill Gates' patent 060606. Yes, that's real. Everyone, please go and look up.
Hear that? 0606. Here is Revelation 13:18. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 636. All right, the Edomite man, starting with the top wicked elites and their stooges.
060606, and you will see that the plan is to actually be able to mine cryptocurrency with your body's data. Well, how would they do that? They need some sort of sensors, conductors inside of us feeding information back to the data centers through quantum technology. And by the way, Bill Gates is also developing the quantum dot microneedle patch. We can talk about that, which is real-time data being sent to the powers that be of everything that's going on inside of your body at any given time. And also, of course, your ability to bank, aka mine cryptocurrency, with your body's data, which will tell the powers that be if you are being compliant or not.
I mean, this is a transhumanist agenda. How far?
All right, so you can watch the rest of that. I gotta get going. So it's my last precept. Revelation 3 and 10 NLT. Okay, it reads, because you have obeyed my command to persevere, I will protect you from the great time of testing that will come upon the whole earth, the whole world, to test those who belong to this world. I am coming soon. Hold on to what you have, this truth, wisdom, and knowledge, knowledge, and understanding, so that no one will take away your crown, all right? Your faith, ultimately. All who are victorious will become pillars in the temple of my power, Yahweh, and they will never have to leave it. And I will write on them the name of my power, Yahweh, and they will be citizens in the city of my power, Yahweh, the new Jerusalem that comes down from heaven from my power, Yahweh. And I will also write on them my new name, refreshed name. So we're going to be joint heirs with Yahweh. So that's it on that. Lord willing, this is edifying and straightforward to the full elect. We give all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachaha Kadash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, and peace and mercy to the full elect. All right, shalom and stay strong.